everyone, it's Manny. Welcome to another Crime Time episode. Today we are going to be talking about a German serial killer who was active in the 1950s, so like 1945 till 1947. Yeah, let's just get right into it. Today we're talking about Rudolf Pleil, who was nicknamed the Deathmaker, and he was a German serial killer who was convicted of killing 12 women and a salesman. And most of his crimes took place in the Harz Mountains in East Germany, which is relatively close to where I live, so I was kind of really interested in this case because it was quite close to where I am from. And Pleil himself actually wanted to be known as the Deathmaker, and he even wrote a book called Mein Kampf, where he documented his doings. And if you know anything about German history, which I'm pretty sure everyone knows, Mein Kampf was actually the autobiography and book of Hitler, so maybe that's why Pleil named his book the same name. I'm not too sure about that actually. So Pleil was born on July 7th in 1924 in a village called Berenstain near the Czechoslovakian border. Berenstain is a relatively small town with only around 2,000 inhabitants now, but in the 30s around 4,000 people were living there. And his father was an industrial worker and communist, and after the rise of the Nazis, his father was arrested, and then they moved to a Czech town called, I'm gonna butcher this, give me a second. Google Translator, please come and help me. Okay, so they moved to a Czech town called
Very.
Yeah. And this town is right on the border to Germany with a fairly small population. Right now, around 2,800 people live there. I'm not too sure how many live there back in the 30s. But yeah, so they moved there because his father was a communist, not really accepted by the Nazis, and they thought that moving to the Czech Republic would, help them. And yeah. So Pleil supported his parents with border smuggling at the age of 9 and was repeatedly arrested. He did not attend school because he had to earn money in order to support his family, which I don't think was really uncommon to that time. And at the age of 15, he left home and began working as a butcher, but soon stopped after a couple of weeks. And then he worked as a ship boy on barges on the Elbe and Oder. And here he also operated smaller and illegal businesses. After the beginning of the Second World War, he went to the Kriegsmarine, where he was sentenced to 1 year in prison for theft. On October 26 in 1943, he was found unfit for service due to epileptical seizures. And because he suffered from these seizures, he was supposed to be sterilized, but a bomb attack destroyed the operating room just a few days before his scheduled appointment. He also previously conceived a child, which was taken care of by his sister. And yeah, he became a cook in a labor camp, which is where he really started his unhealthy tendencies. In the labor camp, he started to kill and eat cats. After the Red Army invaded Germany, He was hired as an auxiliary policeman in his home village, and this was a time where his urge to kill really intensified. And during a plundering operation, he actually shot a Soviet soldier. He married a young woman who was expecting a child, but he soon realized that this could not satisfy his urges, and he began to attack and harass women at night. He admitted to having committed murders as early as 1945, but this could not be proven. In 1946, he moved from Söblitz to Sorche in the Southern Harz, which is on the west side of the border, or was on the west side of the border. Obviously, the border is no longer existing, thank God. And between 1946 and 1947, Pleil worked as a frontier worker in the Harz. As a so-called Grenzgänger, so as a frontier worker, he offered his help to those people who wanted to flee from East Germany to West Germany. However, these people who were mostly women died at his hands. In this time where he worked as a frontier worker, he killed and abused at least 12 women, together with his two accomplices, Karl Hoffmann and Konrad Schüssler. Karl Hoffmann was born in 1913 in Hausdorf and was a needle pusher. He was considered to be brutal and heartless and willing to kill anything that was crossing his way. He died in prison in 1976. Konrad Schüssler was from Leukersdorf and was an 18-year-old butcher. In the late 1970s, he was actually pardoned. On April 18 in 1947, Pleil was arrested after a robbery and killing of a businessman called Hermann Brennen. His body was found dismembered in the Sorchbach, which is a river, and the weapon he was killed with was identified as an axe. And Pleil was quickly accused of this murder, as eyewitnesses have seen him, and the axe that was used for the killing was identified as his, and at this time Pleil was 26 years old. The eyewitness actually didn't go to the police right away. However, when he saw Pleil with a young woman a couple of days later, he trusted his gut feeling and went to the police and possibly prevented yet another murder. Pleil was charged for 12 years in prison for the killing of this businessman. The police had actually no idea that they have caught a serial killer and would have probably never found it out because they have never linked any of the crimes to Pleil. However, Pleil himself bragged about his crimes because he was sure he was safe and nothing could happen to him. The police, however, did not believe him. They did not believe that he committed any other crimes, which made Pleil kind of angry. After his conviction, Pleil applied for the position of an executor and wrote in a letter to the mayor of Wienerberg how no one is believing him, and he wanted to prove his guilt as an executor. And in this letter, he admitted to having killed 2 women, and he threw the bodies of these women in a fountain in Wienerberg. So the police checked, and surely enough, they found both bodies, and Pleil started telling his story of how he and his 2 accomplices killed 12 women. He said that they have killed these women, and afterwards he would abuse them, while Hoffmann and Schüssler would rob them. And the mixture of violence and sex turned Pleil on. And one reason why he killed these women was out of pure sexual desire. However, one thing that bothered him about the deaths was that one of his accomplices would cut off the heads of the woman. and at least one head was found quite far away from where the murder actually happened. These women were rarely reported missing or looked for, as they themselves tried to vanish and flee from east to west without anyone knowing, so no one really ever looked for them, or like no one ever went to the police, because obviously fleeing from one side of Germany to the other side was not allowed. So no one really went to the police in order to say, you know, my daughter is missing or my friend is missing, because it was just not allowed to just go to the other side. And sometimes people knew that someone was planning to leave, but most of the time no one knew. In a diary, Rudolf Pleil actually documented his doings on 127 pages, which he named Mein Kampf, which was also the name of the book from and end of Adolf Hitler. He did not only write this diary because he felt the need to document everything, but he also hoped that if he was ever caught, he would be declared crazy and sent to an institution instead of a prison. However, this was not the case, as a psychologist said Pleil was not crazy, as he knew exactly what he was doing. So Pleil was charged for life in prison, but committed suicide in February 1958, 8 years after his conviction. Apparently, he announced his suicide for years, but again, no one really listened to him, and it really seems as if he really needed the attention he could get, like any attention he could get, and he would be frustrated when no one would pay any to him. Perhaps this is also the reason why he did not commit the crimes on his own, but had two accomplices, so that, you know, he knew for sure that someone knew about his crimes and what he was doing, and would pay attention to him and even like support him in a really disgusting kind of way. And it remains unknown how many people Pleil has killed. 12 cases could be linked to him, but it also seems as Pleil wasn't even sure himself. Sometimes he would claim he killed 25 people, other times he would say he killed at least 40 people. And his goal was to become known as the biggest serious killer, the biggest Deathmaker in history, and he compared himself to another German serial killer called Fritz Hamann, who killed 24 people. So that is everything that I thought I might tell you guys about the German Deathmaker. There are obviously a lot more serial killers, or there were a lot more serial killers in Germany. If you guys want any other crime time video about any other German serial killer, let me know, because there are a lot of informations, but they're mostly in German, so I think it's quite difficult for people in other countries to also know about these, and I just thought it might be interesting to also bring you information about serial killers that might be not as known as others. Like, I think everybody knows Jack the Ripper, or Ted Bundy, Zodiac Killer, you name it, but I don't really think a lot of people know about, like, Rudolf Pleil, for example, and there are a lot of more that I could definitely do some research on. So let me know if or what cases you want me to cover next, and please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I hope I'm gonna see you in my next video. Bye!